Okay, Mr. Sean.
Hey, how are you doing? Sandra, you're there somewhere. I can't quite see you.
You forgot to finish the song, so let me do
I
it
did that so
again.
well. And everyone can tell we rehearsed that. Google Plus for you and me. Did I get it right this time, Sandra?
You did a
Thank you.
marvelous
Well,
job.
all in the rehearsal, Sandra, as we know. All in the rehearsal.
Hi, I'm Sandra Watson, and this is Rockin' the Blocks of the ABCs of Google Plus. And we're delighted to have you here today. And now you all have that song in your brain, the ABCs of Google Plus. Sean, I'm going to blue box you so that everybody can see your ABCs.
Thank
Those
you,
are
Sandra.
adorable.
They are adorable. I actually managed to get this right, so I didn't quite get the song right, everybody. But Sandra, do you want me to share that other ABCs that we were talking about, or do you think that would be a step too far?
Go for it.
Go for it. Okay, guys, I've got to show you something today. Actually, you'll be looking at me and you'll be thinking, my God, you know, we've seen him on some Hangouts and he normally looks a bit pasty-faced, and that's probably because he's a Brit and rarely does the sun shine ever in the UK. And you'd be right. So, with the mentorship of Sandra Watson, I actually bought these, and I'm going to move them really, really close to the camera. And you'll be really pleased to see that my vitamins, which Sandra told me that I actually need to get, are the ABCs Plus. So we probably totally destroyed any ability to share this on YouTube now that we're inadvertently branding. But I've got to tell you, these are fantastic for all sorts of things. So that's it. That's my little plug over. I'm going to move that way. Zane's shaking his head in disbelief, but here we go.
Okay, that's great. I know everybody's going to run right out and buy those vitamins.
Thank you.
Okay. I am Sandra Watson. As I said, I am a coach, a teacher of the ABCs of Google+. Back to the basics, of course. If you get the basics, you're going to have it really good. What is Rockin' the Blocks of the ABCs? Rockin' the Blocks is beyond the ABCs. What do you do once you know all the ABCs? Well, then you want to know how to brand your business, what to do to promote your business, and how to market your business. And that's what we're about here on the ABCs Rockin' the Block. So, without much ado, we do want to introduce Sean. Please, Sean, can you introduce yourself before we introduce our guest? And let me just say, Sean is my delightful co-host. I'm really glad to have him here. He keeps me on the straight and narrow when I'm playing the ABCs.
Oh, bless you, Sandra. Thank you so much. No, it's a real pleasure to be here as always. I'll have met some of you. I can see some of you in the stream, but for those of you that don't know me, clearly you can tell by the accent I'm UK based. In terms of what I do, I'm a social media consultant. I work with small businesses in the UK. I also run, in addition to co-hosting with Sandra, I also have a show on Thursdays even, which I also do with Sandra, called Successfully Social. But today we've got an amazing guest. I know, Sandra, you want to talk about Zane as well. We've got the great privilege of being joined by Zane Miller. So we've had a little bit of fun, but we've got a lot of serious content as well to get through. And I'll push back to Sandra. I know you wanted to introduce Zane and say a little bit more about Zane before Zane comes in and shares a little bit about his story.
Well, I didn't have to, but that's okay. I'll be delighted to do so. The reason we thought about Zane Miller was, what could he add to your experience here on Google+? What could he add to your experience as a marketer on the web? And we felt that he had a lot to bring to you today. I'm going to say one thing. He started in 2008 as a YouTube marketer. He'll be giving you his story in a minute, and he'll go back into some of his history even before that. 2010, he published courses on YouTube. And you can see I'm looking at my notes because I want to get them right for you, Zane. 2014, he integrated Google+ and G+ communities. He has a very proven track record of generating income on the web. And that's a biggie. Because if we're going to be talking to a marketer and we're going to be talking about how to integrate and how to do all this, we want someone that's done it. And so, without further ado, Zane, would you please come and introduce yourself and elaborate a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and why you're delighted to be here?
Yeah, I would love to. So first of all, thanks for having me. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me and see me, right?
Yep.
Awesome,
Certainly
awesome.
can.
You are blue
So
boxed.
fantastic, fantastic. So I'm actually gonna make sure. Okay. All right. So here's what's been going on. I'm very excited to be here. Yes, because I do lots of hangouts and I do a lot of video, and I'm just glad that I don't have to be the person behind the scenes making sure everything works, because I also understand how frustrating that can be, again, to those of you out there who are like, yeah, I know, stupid. Yeah, anyway, so that being said, that also kind of introduces you to a little bit about me, about how I talk and interact and communicate, very stream of consciousness, but I do have mind maps in front of me to keep me on point, but as Sean and Sandra have already discovered since the last time that we talked, I can meander on all sorts of topics, so they're also here to guide me. Bottom line, I've been doing this. I've been obsessed with I've been obsessed with YouTube since 2008, and it's just been an ever-growing obsession. And then because of that, just in me constantly talking about it, people were like, either make a product or shut up about it. So I opted to make a product about it because I wasn't going to shut up about it. So that's how I started in 2010, making products about YouTube. I wasn't interested in anything else, and I actually, to the resistance of a lot of other marketers in my space, going, why are you just doing the YouTube thing? I'm like, because that's the only thing I'm interested in. And then Google shows up and says, hey, here's Google Plus, and I went, meh, whatever, I don't care. But then they said, hey, here's Hangouts, and I went, yeah, that I want live streaming broadcast abilities, and so I jumped onto that, and then Google came and was like, hey, Google Plus is connected to this, so it was just this ever growing obsession because Google just kept giving me more things to mess around with. So here we are, and now I feel like there's ways that Google's tools and systems like Google Plus and Hangouts and stuff actually do work in conjunction together, and I think that's where they're going with this. So with that said, there's me, and I'm going to stop talking for a minute so you guys can start talking.
Yeah, actually, Zane, what I find quite fascinating there, two things. Firstly, it sounds like you were initially a little bit cynical about Google Plus. So YouTube was your thing, and it was only when Hangouts and the ability to stream video came in that you began to see that there was a little bit of a synergy. So that's really exciting, because I know a lot of our audience are kind of, they know about pulling everything together, but maybe they're not using all of the facility of Google Plus. I know that's something you want to share with us. But you're clearly not in that space now. You're clearly quite a big fan of Google Plus, I would say.
Yeah. Well, just between a lot of the tools being connected and a lot of the features, like for example, Google Plus, the comment structure, basically replacing the YouTube comment structure. There was a lot of resistance to that, and I was just like, oh, why? Like that's like you're exponentially increasing the exposure of your YouTube video through Google Plus, because every time you make that post, like a YouTube video post on Google Plus, here's the YouTube video, and then it adds your comment on Google Plus to the YouTube video. So somebody who's looking for more exposure wants that. And like I said, there was so much resistance to it. I just couldn't understand why, because if you took a step back and realized what you were actually given, it was a much cooler thing than people were leading on about it. So that was one of the first things that really got my aha moment. But as a marketer, I want to be able to have the easiest way to go from one place to another. And for the longest time, you couldn't put a link to a website in a YouTube video, like in the comments. It just wouldn't allow you to do that. And now that Google Plus has been introduced as the comment structure, you can actually put comments to any other website on the internet. And again, it was just this huge oversight. Everyone would rather complain about it, except see one of the most amazing, most effective things for marketers that can be used for good or evil, right? But having that ability to link in YouTube comments was brilliant. So I became more of a fan that way, to answer your question.
Yeah, and I like your comment there as well, for good or for evil, because we're not talking necessarily about being in people's face. We're talking about joined up thinking, really, aren't we? And marketing ethically and appropriately, at least in your case. But Sandra, I know you've got just looking at you, I know you've got quite a few things you want to throw in there.
Oh my gosh. Well, first, I do want to say thank you, Dawn Swick Renshaw. I hope I said that right, Dawn. And then Melanie Hall for being here. Glad that you just were able to join. That's neat. And I don't know if Tony's here, but he did write a comment right before the show. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to show up, and we'll get to Tony's comment later. But oh, Kevin Burns just signed in. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for coming in. We're glad to see you. But before we go any further, Sean, I would like for you to explain what we have been talking about, the VIP Zane Miller private circle that we're going to create after today's show. So let's get that in the beginning so people that are here can start asking questions.
Yeah, and also I need to declare something here. For whatever reason, and you might have to help me here, Sandra, my comment tracker doesn't appear to be working properly. And that is quite significant, because for those of you that have already seen our trailer video, first of all, we're really, really pleased that Zane is here, and that goes without saying. But one of the reasons that I want to talk about the circle is that what Zane's committed to doing very generously is helping us, as a thank you to you guys for the quality of some of the questions we anticipate, helping us set up a VIP private circle. Now, it's not a VIP private circle in the wrong sense of the word. It's a VIP private circle so that we can take some of today's subject and discussions and take it a little bit further. But clearly we can't do that with absolutely everybody. So what the three of us have decided is that for those people that make the most contribution in the discussion, we'll recognize that and thank people by creating a private circle for 10 people. And at a future date, Zane, Sandra, and myself will get together with those 10 people, and we'll take some of the more popular themes of today's hangout and discuss them a little bit further. And the reason we would want to do that is because clearly you're here because you want to take Google Plus further than perhaps you already have. So that's my 2.5 minute in a nutshell statement. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, you guys, at all.
Yeah, I would just want to add just a little bit to that of the whole concept, is because also, like, I want to encourage you guys to also pay attention to the things that are happening around us, like even the things that you're not supposed to pay attention to, right? Like, look at, like, this is what I do anytime I see an event or a webinar or something, is I want to look at the bigger picture. Okay, so what led all these people here? Why am I here? Like, looking inside it, you have to look at the environment around you and see how you can leverage it yourself. So I want you guys and encourage you guys to think about the concept of the private circle itself, because a lot of people get confused on how should I market with Google Plus, and they're giving you the formula right there with circles. Concentric circles of influence. You want to just constantly reach out to people and say, hey, here's how you can connect with me, and if you're interested in this area, in this area, then you can connect with me that way. Just because there's a VIP circle for the discussion here, what makes you think that there won't be more or different versions or something, you know, something like unto that? This, again, pay attention to what's happening. Even this, like, there's the stuff that we're saying, but there's also the stuff we're doing that you can learn from, and we want to show you as an example, hey, here's some things that we're doing, and we want to invite you to be a part of that. You can if you want. You don't have to, but this is how we're doing it. So join us, and, you know, if you do, great. If not, then we'll just see you in the next way that we connect, and that's it. Like, it's a much more easygoing way of connecting with people and finding, yes, that point where there's a buyer and a seller.
So that's a really nice distinction. Thanks very much for that, because it is all about connection and integration, and that's the theme of this particular HOA. So I love the way you put that. And I can see that Sandra's just put something up from Kevin. Do you want me to read it out, Sandra, or do you want to do the honors?
No, I would love for you to read it.
Okay, bless you. Well, Kevin, Zane Miller, when you say G Plus came to you with the HOA concept, how exactly did this come to you? You noticed them and realized the correlation / synergy to your marketing efforts via YouTube, or they literally tapped you on the shoulder?
Right. Yeah, I was reading this. I'm glad you mentioned it. So from it wasn't, they didn't come and tap me on the shoulder. I only wish. I'm just a super nerd when it comes to the YouTube stuff. There's been a couple of things where I've had, like, earlier access than some other people, but like, you know, I am not. I'm not on YouTube's radar in the sense that, oh, well, let's see what Zane Miller has as far as feedback goes. So when I came across it with the whole Google Plus thing, it was because I was already involved in tinkering with the tools. Like for example, like when back when they integrated YouTube and Google Plus together, they basically said, okay, here's your Google Plus profile. When you try and make a new YouTube channel, I'm like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. Mm. And then but then I stopped myself and went, wait, maybe there's opportunity here, right? So initially I was just like, forget Google Plus. They're trying to force me into an account that I don't want. And when I stopped myself, I was thankful that I did, because I stopped myself early enough to see the potential and go, okay, what do we have here? And then I saw the lines being crossed between YouTube and Hangouts and Google Plus. So again, that was the long answer to your short question. They didn't tap me on the shoulder. It was more of like I was already diving into YouTube and the tools in front of me, and saw the connections myself. Although I really would have liked a notification from Google. That would have been awesome.
When we were in discussion before the show, Zane, you had elaborated a little bit about what brought you into it, and also what makes you go forward, what keeps you going to get to the point to where you actually have something to market, if you will. So before you answer that, we're going to ask Sean to tell his story about the three cat books.
Oh, the infamous cat story.
This is what brought the whole idea together of Zane telling his story, and your cat books are great.
Well, first of all, I don't know if I'm blue boxed. Not that I'm egotistical in any sense. Before I do that, I've got to shout out to one of my brothers, actually, from over in Thailand at the moment. So good friend of mine, Tony Grant. I've got to acknowledge Tony. Tony's over in Thailand. He was in Las Vegas for a short chunk of time.
Yeah, I know Tony.
Yeah, we all know Tony. Tony's got one of those amazing reputations that straddles the vast scope of Google Plus. So big shout out to you, Tony. Great to see you here, and you got some really good comments in the stream, my friend. So great to see you. Now the cat story. They're not my cat books, I hasten to add, but a very good friend of mine a couple of weeks ago approached me to tell me that she'd had a little victory in terms of online marketing. And I asked her to be really specific, and basically for the last 12 months she's been learning the tools and techniques and processes of online marketing. She'd never sold a dime, but what she'd done is she'd made her first proper landing page, and she'd actually managed to have 3 cat books retailing at something like $17 and sold them. Now 3 cat books is a million miles away from internet glory, of course, but the philosophy, and we were discussing this with Zane prior to the show, is that sometimes those 3 cat books represent the fact you've done 80% of the work, and you just need to sharpen the saw a little bit. You've gotten your landing pages up, you understand a little bit about internet marketing, etc. So the 3 cat book story, if any of you are in the audience, you're kind of thinking, do you know what, I haven't really made it yet, but I've sold a couple of things. You could be closer to success than you think you are. And what we're going to do in this hangout is Zane's going to kind of give some of the cement to bind it together in terms of making us think about how Google Plus as a unified platform can really, really skyrocket that. So in essence, the 3 cat book story for me and for my friend was a big victory. She's closer to success than she thinks.
Okay. Now, Zane, tell us how you got your first start. You were the one that was talking about how, wow, 3 books, that's fantastic. and I'm sitting there saying, yeah. And then Sean came in with why it's fantastic. What made you stick with it to get to the 3 cat books?
Yeah. Well, so as I saw it, it was one of those things that, I mean, a lot of people don't, a lot of gurus and top echelon marketers don't want to say things like, well, the average internet marketer makes $7 a year. It's true.
Really?
That's like it's a harsh pill to swallow, but it's true. But I think if you truly want to be a marketer, you need to see the reality in front of you, and then see it for what it is, and then say, okay, but how can I influence it? How can I make it better? Just because it is what it is doesn't mean it needs to stay that way, right? So to see that reality and go, yeah, that's that is the reality, and we need to understand why is it that way. How can we make it better? I mean, that's really where these conversations, I think, really need to start, is with a real look at what's happening around us, and as grim as it may seem, go, well, this is what it is. That you can't escape it. So with that said, I see that as, you know, I made 3 sales, you know, with these cat books, and you know, you got to consider the time frame in which it was made, and this is actually something that a smarter marketer than myself came up with. His name is Chris Munch, right? And he was basically talking about that you know, a lot of people are sold on this fact of, well, I'm going to buy this product because this person has explained to me how it's based in science. And he explains that it's not science in the fact of there's like boiling water, because those are very controlled variables, first of all, and there's only 2 of them. And, you know, there's water and there's heat, and you get the water to a certain temperature, and ta-da, boiled water. Whereas the science that we talk about, especially in marketing, are based on many, many multiple variables that, in addition to that, there's the ever-changing marketplace. So, you know, when we can get very, very frustrated going, well, this is based on science and psychology, and I do X, Y, Z, and I don't see it. But there are more variables that are involved. So, like with this story with the 3 books, you know, I hear 3 sales, and it sounds like the excitement is there because it was 3 sales in a concentrated period of time, which is a very important variable. Yeah, within a week. Yeah, which is a very important variable when it comes to the science of marketing. Is that okay? So not only was it 3 sales, but it was 3 sales in a week. If it was 3 sales in like 3 years, that's would be like, you know, I had something for this. If it was 3 sales in 3 years, then it would be right. Okay. Yeah. Then we could totally make fun of it. But you know, so again, it was that it's those variables that you have to pay attention to, and that's what determines whether you should be propelled forward or whether you should go backwards or make a different decision. But that just comes with time, guys. Like I personally have been at the YouTube stuff since 2008, and the problem with being a pioneer, like I've been numerous times, is that pioneer also comes with the fact of like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of arrows in my back, right? Like the pioneers were also shot at by Indians crossing the plains, so it's really exciting, but it is fraught with danger and constantly changing unknown variables. And so, yeah. So go ahead, please.
Yeah, Zane, actually, no, sorry, no, not at all. Forgive me for interrupting you, but I'm interrupting you for kind of a reason, because it's just dawned on me that you talk about variables as kind of the penny dropped moment for me. Sometimes I think the problem is for people who are just getting new to marketing, maybe haven't sold very much, there are so many different things they could do. There are so many platforms they could go on. We hear about Facebook ads, we hear about using Twitter, we hear about G+, we hear about doing this, that, and the other. That I think sometimes it's not that people don't have a grasp of the concepts, it's knowing priorities, sequence, and what to do first. And if I'm speaking for people in the audience, do put some stuff up in the comment tracker to either agree or disagree with me. So, Zane, what's your spin on that? Because, you know, let's imagine I'm relatively new to this. What do I do first? And how can someone like you help and coach me and instruct me when I really want to get out there and sell some kit? I just don't know what the first step forward would be.
Yeah. Well, there's many different people who enter this realm of marketing, if you will, and they're all at different points. So some people just have no idea where to start, and there's a certain way to address those people. But from what I'm hearing, you're saying like, I have a product or I have a thing that I want to sell, and I'm trying to put those pieces together. But before I respond.
Well, I'm kind of speaking rhetorically, but I'm also speaking for myself as well, if I'm honest. You know, I know it's taken me months to get to a point that other people might have gotten to in weeks, because I've kind of dabbled and played around and tried this and tried that. And I wonder if I speak for other people in the audience there. And just looking at some of the comments, I know some of the guys who are posting, and I know they're really bright, intelligent people. And they want to market and they want to do well, but it's knowing what to do. So I don't know if I've answered your question there, but I'm right. Kind of thinking for a lot of people it's they've come to Google Plus now because they're kind of seeing a synergy, and I know your Gtron community talks about that, Zane, but they're still not sure what's first, and we've got comments in here about how to attach YouTube accounts to which profile or page, and what do I do, and if, you know, so it's a big question.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I can answer that, and I'll basically start it in one track, and if we need to jump over to the other, that's fine. So the first thing that I want to start with is that it's really important to know what you want to do first of all, right? Like that really is like the first step. Like, some people are coming into this going, well, I really wish I could use Google Plus in some sort of way, but there's not like a product that they want to sell that they can attach to, really. But that's really like the first thing. What do you want to sell? Like, is it something that's a part of who you are? Is it your part of your personality? Like for me personally, I'm a personality marketer, if you couldn't tell, right? Like, there's parts of I sell me just as much as my product, right? But that's just how I personally prefer to do it, because it makes it easier to do, and it fits with my ethics, and I'm able to sleep at night. But so again, there are some personal decisions that you need to make before you start considering any of this stuff. So if there's a point where you're just like, wait, there's so much technical stuff that's going around, and you're concerned about that, it's because you haven't figured out what it is that you want to do. So that's a really big point that I want to start this with, because the next thing after that, like, once you've got that and you're like, okay, that's me, and this is my product, or this is at least the direction I want to go, the first thing that you need to consider is your presence, not just on Google Plus, but your overall digital presence. If you were to have a Facebook page and a Google Plus page and a Google Plus community, what would those look like? What is your presence? And it's based on, again, those decisions that you need to make in the beginning that say, okay, this is my business, this is my competition, this is my potential customer, those kinds of things that are, again, very generally based marketing concepts, but you do need to think about before you even think about the concept of internet marketing in general. Who is your marketplace? Who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to address? And who are you in that space? And that's where you really need to begin. So I'm going to stop for a second.
Sandra, I'm very conscious, sorry, forgive me for just saying this one thing. I think that's brilliant, because actually that's a bit sometimes people miss, and then what happens is they start marketing, but they haven't really defined the essence of who and what they are, and then you get sort of schizophrenic stop-start marketing. So I think that's brilliant. Almost before any of the technical stuff, let's define who the hell you are in the first place and what you're doing. Simple, but very profound. But it leads me on to a couple of points in the comment tracker. The first one I'm going to pull up is from Kerry Wilden, and let's see if I can actually do this. You might think this is unrelated, Zane, but to me, let's presume people now know what their business is, and Kerry actually has a very defined business, which is coaching for women of 50 and beyond, fab after 50. So Kerry's now saying, presuming that, well, she has a business niche sorted, she's now saying, I think many of us might have chosen the wrong G Plus account to link our YouTube accounts to, not realizing the implications. Can we now change them? And there's one or two people who said, we know what our business is, but we've kind of got this, we've attached the wrong bit to the wrong bit.
Right,
what's your advice in that sense?
No, that's a very good point. And so, from what it sounds like, and this is actually also a problem that has come up, I think, specific to Google Plus, and and it just so happens, hey, this is part of my mind map. So thank you, Sean.
My pleasure. No worries.
I call this the profile and the doppelganger profile. Right. So and this part of the blame does fall on Google. Okay, it's not just you guys, right? So in their efforts to just like, hey, everything now switches over to Google Plus. In those efforts, like all the Google how do I describe this? So basically, before how you create YouTube channels now, you basically had to create a new YouTube account, and that YouTube account created a new Google account, or a new Google Gmail, right? So when Google made their unilateral massive transition, they just basically said anything that has a Google a Gmail account will now become a Google account, which creates a Google Plus profile. So now there's all these doppelgangers that you have, right? Because you created other YouTube channels, you created other Gmail accounts, or whatever it is, and now these doppelgangers just exist. So here's the thing, though. If you take one of those doppelgangers and morph it into, like, this is now my business presence, and this, I'm using quotey fingers. But sorry, I also consider taking like content from a Hangout and then reproducing it as audio. So I always like, if I do actions, I always like to state, like, I'm using quotey fingers just in case someone's just listening to the audio. You never, but that's my random brain. I'm sorry. So what was I saying? What was the last thing?
You're talking about doppelganger accounts.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, see, this is exactly what we're talking about. That's why these guys are here. So yeah, so you make this doppelganger account, and then you go, okay, that's my business profile, and that's just what I'm going to do. But Google doesn't like that. What Google wants is a profile for humans and pages for everything else, whether it's nonprofit or whatever. I mean, like, again, I've had this discussion with people so many times. Like, they want to legitimize using that doppelganger profile, and they're trying to convince me. I'm like, hey, you're trying to convince the wrong person. Like, you need to talk to Google about that. So to that end, to button up that point really quick, it's just simply that if you have that doppelganger account and you feel like you have, it's not in the right place, there are solutions. There are limited solutions of being able to move things around. But at the end of the day, I would actually just recommend, if you're not too far into that particular profile and you haven't made tons of videos and whatnot, to just start over and actually create from your profile a YouTube channel. And maybe this is actually a perfect point to say, hey, this is some content we can go deeper into if you're a part of that VIP circle. Not like we're going to sell you something, but hey, this is actually kind of a tangent and a rabbit hole that I could go on for a very long time about. So we should just basically button that point and hope that answers the question, and say, hey, so if you're interested in discussing more of these things, then you want to be a part of the VIP circle, and that's as far as it goes. Right? Seem like a good place to stop, Sean?
I think so. Sandra, what do you think?
Yeah. No, I think it is. Because you can, oh my gosh, you can spend more time on that subject. I mean, there's no sense in even talking about what time we could spend. One of the things that we talked about also, Zane, is the G+ resistance that you found when you came to Google+. And I think, again, that's another good subject for us to address here for everyone, because people are afraid sometimes of what they're saying and everything, and then you found people have a hard time even wanting to come here. I mean, Carrie's found with her followers on different platforms, they're just resistant to come to Google+. What has your experience been? Where do you think we are going, and how do you put this in the new SEO influence of semantic search and so forth? I mean, I'm combining a lot of things in a subject, but I'd like for you to address it, and I know we've talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked, and I hope you have an hour to discuss it. I'm that guy. I got plenty to say about it. Like, there's like I think the fear of dying is still behind the fear of public speaking, and so in that essence, I'm like a superhero. Like, I don't fear it at all. So. So as I see it, this Google+ resistance, first of all, I think is an absolute joke. I think it's hilarious, and I think what's actually happening is both Google+ and Facebook are doing their jobs right, and both companies are like, haha, yes, this is working exactly as we want it to, right? Everyone wants to put Google+ up against Facebook, and oftentimes what's actually happened is that Google+ has passed with flying colors. They're like, and then everyone, well, they don't have this, and this. It's not Facebook. We have used Facebook for so long, but for the longest time, it's always been one platform. It's been, do we talk about Friendster or MySpace? No, but that's how the evolution happened, right? It was Friendster, then MySpace, then Facebook, and now Google+. And it's not a contender for Facebook or that space. It's a different place, and it's basically Coke and Pepsi, right? As I see it. Plus, both companies, think about it, they're both publicly traded, and so both companies are obligated to their chairman, their board members, to try and make as much money as possible. And controversy sells things really well. So when you intentionally start these battles of like Facebook versus Google+, that creates the energy that they want. So it's doing like all of this, like, and again, I'm like, yes, please keep talking smack about Google Plus because it gives me a lot more to talk about, right? So again, to that, I'll lay that to rest. First of all, I just think it's a joke, and I think it's a really funny joke. But to that end, I do also recognize that resistance, and it's very real. And you know, as funny as it is, like, okay, yeah, but get to the point. Like, how do you get people to come over? So what I've seen is I look at it again. If you guys have read the book or seen the documentary or a part of the podcast, there's a book. Can't remember the authors. It's called Freakonomics, right? And the really cool book because it's actually based on the concept of incentives, right? And that's like that. The whole world is driven by incentives, and and how you understand how to implement incentives with certain groups of people depends on, you know, is the result of the outcome that you get. Very, very interesting book, extremely fascinating. I recommend that you read it. They also have a documentary on Netflix, and then they also use that platform of just like, this is a documentary, yes, or this is a book, yes, but the podcast is intended to extend that conversation. So if you like the book and the documentary like me, then you'll subscribe to the podcast because it's just really, really fascinating stuff. So to that end, right, incentives.
Stephen Levitt, is it? Stephen Levitt?
Yes. Yeah, the two economists, right? They talk about things like, you know, what do real estate agents and the KKK have in common? Right? Like, how could you not want to watch that or listen to that? Like, what do they have in common? Like, those are two very, you know, juxtaposition and whatnot. And I could go on another point, but I can't because I shouldn't. So to that end, you got to think about the incentives. What's motivating people right now in the current spaces and the current mindset that they're in right now? We already understand that, hey, Facebook, everybody's on Facebook, right? And you want to be able to get that marketplace, and you also want to be able to show that, hey, Google Plus is actually pretty cool and it's not that bad, right? So we use the things that are the most enticing. The most often shared things on Facebook are pictures and YouTube videos. They are the most trusted pieces of content in all of Facebook and all of the internet. YouTube has been around for so long. When you see a YouTube link, you're just trained to go, oh yeah, YouTube video. And if it's related to something that you're interested in, you're going to watch it. So what we do to get people to cross that bridge, and what I've been doing, is leveraging YouTube and Hangouts. YouTube, the video version, and then Hangouts, the live version of it. And you can actually use, I've leveraged the live version of it all the time, much like you guys have, especially with this. We in our meeting before, we're like, we should broadcast out to people that we know, like, and trust, who have similar audiences, who would be interested in the topics that we're talking about right now. Not that spam distribution garbage where it's just like, oh yeah, let's, you know, if they got places I can comment, I'm just going to put it on there. So then you get some unrelated traffic from like a cooking show. And you're like, what's going on over here? Like, you don't even want that traffic? Why? Why would you want that garbage traffic and then cause you more headache and issues and wondering, like, hey, why isn't this working? Well, consider
we've just lost the 5 chefs that were watching, Zane. I hate to tell
you. No, actually, truth be told, the live hangouts on air, that's like cooking shows, like that. We haven't even scratched the surface on that. Like, that's a huge, massive, like, hangout specific thing. Like, people love live cooking shows, but they love even more to be in the hangout and cooking with the chef, right? And you don't even get me started on the monetization possibilities right there. I mean, poof, right? So to pull myself out of that, right?
We're going to get SEO from here, right?
Yes, SEO. Okay. Right. So but what was I saying before the whole chef comment, though?
Well,
going to the right market.
Oh, right, yeah, going to the right market. No, because going to the right market also is very involved with SEO. But what I think is funny, again, going back to this whole concept of marketing, is that people don't realize that, like, optimization and SEO is just another way. You're just talking to something else, right? So with the content that you're actually delivering in the videos and things like that, you're talking to your audience, you're talking to humans. But when it comes to search engine optimization, you're talking to a computer. So realize you're talking to a computer. What do they want? What do they need? It's not that you want to manipulate them. You just need to explain to them this is what's going on. Right. And again, you're having control over very open. Like you just tell me what you're all about, and then I'll explain to everybody else what that means. So again, this is the crossroads that you have to have with yourself. What do you want to say to the search engine to explain to billions of other people what you're all about? Now,
so how then do you
right.
make it when you're doing content and so forth? Obviously, you're thinking about the human.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you split your thought pattern then between the SEO, search engine optimization, the semantic search, if you will, and
Right.
all that stuff? I mean, it all runs through
Right.
your mind, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
How much do you keep then? How do we tell people that are watching, this is what you concentrate on the most if you want to be successful?
Always start default to the human element, because that's the only thing that doesn't change with all of this technology. The technology is trying to integrate with humans and be more of a service platform for them. So if you're always thinking about the people and how to interact with them, regardless of what you title your videos and things like that, you're still talking to the person.
Yeah.
So yes, content is king, but to get more to the point of the actual SEO, you're again saying, I'm explaining this to these people. So this content is about, title, and then understanding that titles are one of the most important things when it comes to SEO. And again, it's computers are trying to act like human beings. So when you think about it, when you think of priority levels with a computer or a human, you think, okay, title is extremely important because it's the first thing that you see. It's the first impression. There's also other implications therein. So okay, title is the most important thing. So in 500 characters, I think that's the total length that you have for a title. This is the first impression. So what do I want to explain that this content is about? So you start with that, and I make it really easy on myself. I know I'm getting kind of high-minded here, but I'll get it into a technical step that you can take with this. So again, I'm focused entirely on the audience, and then I'm leveraging the tools around me, like the search engine itself. So when I see something, I use my intuition. When I see something that looks like, hey, I think my audience would be interested in something like that. So then I use the Google and YouTube tool itself, the search engine part of it, which is the first and second largest search engines in the world. So it seems like a really, really good place to begin your research, right? And see how the marketplace is interacting with the content, because they feed off of each other. The people want the content, the search engine wants to give it to them. So that's the perfect baseline of going, okay, so if I have similarly based content, what kind of phrases, what kind of words are they using, not just for the people that they're talking to, but also the phrases and terms that they use talking to the search engine. And you start to see patterns. You start to see, okay, so the search engines, when you type this search in, you get these types of search results. These type of search results out. So you have to kind of play this game of psychology versus technology back and forth. What is a person thinking when they type in this search? What is the search engine thinking when the person types in this search? Everybody's trying to guess what the other person's thinking, and if you just take a step back and observe what's actually happening, you can go, oh, okay, so you cherry pick the best title, and you cherry pick the best description, and then you cherry pick the best tags, and then once you've done that, then you add you to it. You add, like, okay, this is my own branding, my own thing, my own twist, and then suddenly you get content that people are very, very interested in. It's optimized very greatly, and if anything, what ends up happening is that you end up with a really spiffy outline that you can use with you and two of your friends and have really good content during a live hangout.
So to kind of distill that, Zane, because I think that's really cool, and we've got mixed levels of experience in terms of people who are watching the show. In essence, what you're saying is that you've got your personal brand, product, service, call it what you will. What you'll do is you'll look at what other people in a similar niche are doing. You'll imagine what it might be like for someone in the general public to search for that on Google or YouTube. You'll then pick and choose keywords and terms that are quite rich and quite commonly come up in the search, and then you'll link that into your own personality. And the consequence of that is you've not only got good keywords, but you've also got Sean's version of the good keywords, or Zane's version of the good keywords, or Sandra's good version of the keywords. So you've branded it yourself, and you've also enriched it with valuable keywords. I guess that's, for me, that's kind of what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be a good way of putting it. I do have an example I can give you that
Cool.
that Sandra said that she would like to hear the story of, but I want to make sure that we're still on point.
I think so.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead now.
Okay, so the example I wanted to throw out to everybody was that when one of the very first information product I ever made, we decided to test YouTube as a traffic source. This was in 2009, right? I already had experience in a very specific marketplace that we can get into later. Where's my water? Crap. Okay. Anyway, I don't have my water, so. Pardon the voice cracks. So my partner and I jumped in on this, and we're just going to test out YouTube and see how it works, because we saw it happen over here. But what if there was something a little more serious, though? Would it still be able to work? And we found out, spoiler alert, it did really well. So here's what ended up happening is that we didn't, like a lot of marketers will do this. They just want to test out the marketplace, and they don't want to invest a lot of time if they don't have to. So they just kind of put out feeler content, right? And they say like, okay, is there interest in this area, right? Because sometimes you just gotta trust your gut and go, let's see what happens if we just put something out there, right? There's like, I don't think there's enough marketers saying just give it a shot. But that's a whole other thing. So we put the content out there, and what we did is we actually connected. We drove traffic, as you hear all the time with YouTube marketing. We drove traffic from YouTube to our website, which it wasn't like shaped as like give me your email address. There was actually content on there that gave people context, like. Again, we were looking at the end user. What is the user experience? We want to make sure that when they go from YouTube, they know that they're coming from YouTube, and like the page was like, you just came from YouTube. Here's part 2, or there was a funnel process, and we can get into that maybe another point if there's interest of it. But so basically, what happened what we viewed was that people were in this forum. Right, and they were asking questions, and they were basically just getting laughed out of the forum, just like, oh, such terrible noob questions! How dare you poison this forum? Like you guys know what I'm talking about. You've been in forums like that before, right? So they're going from that forum to Google, typing in just like, oh, how do I do this? I'm so frustrated, and they're typing in keywords. Again, I was stepping back and looking at the path that they were going down, and so I just went, okay, so if we want to test YouTube, then YouTube needs to be that person, that personality, quotey fingers again. There needs to be that personality that stands there. If they're in the position of YouTube and Google, where people are already looking for that, like, how do I do this kind of mentality. And I will also say it's in a niche where like having an actual screencast video, like showing the screen, was very 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 helpful. It wasn't internet marketing; it was more technical based. So basically, there was a video on YouTube that basically was like, here's all the basic questions that you're having when you're going through this forum, and everybody's laughing you out of it. We didn't come out and say it. We just said, here's the content, right? We didn't do the whole like internet marketer thing of like, I know how you feel, buddy, and we're gonna go through this together. And no, it was just we didn't need that. We knew what they were going through. We gave them the content that they wanted, and we used that content to say, hey, because this is when you could only have 10 minutes on YouTube. So we're like, we used the limitations to our advantage and cut it off and went, if you want to watch the rest, you got to go over to the website. So you could actually put a link in the description, so people like, oh, okay. We had literally 50% of the YouTube traffic go to the website, and interestingly enough, 50% of that traffic ended up opting into the email list. So
I think it's
ridiculous numbers. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say it's worth emphasizing that. If I could just put my teeth in that, 50% is no small sum, Zane, is it? 50% is amazing conversion rate.
Yeah. We were blown away by the conversions, because we were expecting maybe like 7 or 8%, and when it was 50, and not just 50, like everyone, it was like consistently every single month. There was like the search volume, and again, this is like search volume. I know. We can talk about that later. So the search volume for YouTube for the keyword we were looking for was about 90,000. So 90,000 people per month were searching for these tutorials. So we knew that there was interest, and there was no one else there, but we had no concept that that's what would happen. So to finish this story up really quick, and this also like kind of describes a little bit about me and how I feel about marketing in general, was that like we were testing this out And what we ended up finding out was that people were going through our funnel, opting into our email list, and realizing that there wasn't a product ready. We had an email saying, we're in the works, we're finishing up this product, so please let us know. Maybe not a good thing to say, but please let us know if you have any feedback, because it will help make us make more content. Right? Yeah, you guys know the punchline. And we got hate mail. People were complaining. They felt like that we were deceiving them into thinking that there's content, and the content that's available for sale that we made very clear, like, we expected you to send us an email immediately to sell us this product, and you didn't sell it to us. Blah blah blah. It's like, I should report you, and we're like, whoa, okay. So we had literally the opposite version of, how dare you contact me with your stupid emails and your stupid product, and I hate you, and I shake my fist to the sky and curse you every time I open my email. Like, it was the exact opposite of that, and we went, whoa, there is something way bigger here. Which to this point, like, that was in 2009. Now we can create live broadcast content that you guys can watch in real time and even communicate back to us. We were so limited in 2009. Take those same concepts and those same models and apply it to what we can do live, and just...
I've got two provocative, well, hopefully provocative questions with regard to that. And one of the things that's going to kick it off, I'm going to put Kerry Wielden's comment back up, if I may. So just momentarily, Kerry asked the point, because we're all loving what you're doing here, Zane. We're all with you, and we're all, yeah, Zane, talking sense. But Kerry makes the point, do you think that while everyone is focusing on Facebook and G+, we can be ignoring opportunities on Pinterest and Twitter? Now, can I ask you, before you address that, can I just throw up something related that's popped into my head? So if we can park that. The other thing is, it's made me think about saturation. So everything you've said is brilliant. But with more and more Hangouts happening, there are more opportunities, but we're in a crowded market. So we've got Kerry asking the question, do we need to be focusing on other channels? And I guess that's dependent on the niche and your presence and your brand and so many things. And there's also the other concern I've got, that Google Plus, tremendous opportunities, but as more and more people pile in, we've got to do more to differentiate ourselves. So what's your thinking about those two things? Because there's kind of a connection in my head.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to that end, first of all, I think Kerry has a very good point. I am of the mindset it's never like Facebook versus Google. It's be a smart marketer and use everything that you have that's available to your disposal. And to the point that Sean made, yeah, some markets are like markets in Pinterest, I'm not as well versed in Pinterest, but I do know that it's an image-based social media platform. So therefore, my brain goes to, okay, so if I were showing things and like pictures were a paramount part, then Pinterest is definitely a place that I want to be, and you'd be foolish not to consider it just because there's a bunch of marketers out there wanting to sell their Facebook products. Now, again, that isn't to diss on Facebook, but again, if there's going to be any kind of us versus them mentality, it's the fact that it should be the open-minded marketers versus the closed-minded marketers, because there are so many people out there that say only Facebook or only Google Plus, and that's never like, again, if you want to consider yourself a marketer or even somebody who's well versed in marketing, then you need to understand, like, it's common sense to go, well, yeah, why wouldn't I use every tool to my disposal? So to that end, into the next point, Sean, you were asking about with the Hangouts and saturation. Excuse me. So with to that end, I can say that we are at the very, very left side of the tip of the iceberg. Sure. When it comes to Hangouts in general. I do believe that we are at that point of saturation of lower quality Hangouts. Right. See, this is where it starts to get more interesting, right? So what's happening now? People are finally adopting into it. Again, just like YouTube, I had the same thing with Hangouts. I was banging the drum like, yeah, Hangouts, they're great, and people weren't quite grasping onto it right until about 2013. Then it took off, right? So it's one of those things that now that the adoption rate is at such a level that people are really, like, so much so that people like Hangouts so much that I believe it's part of the reason why Google Plus has kept living on, right? Because it's ingrained into YouTube and Hangouts, and you can't have one without the other, sort of thing. And there's enough cool, interesting things that happen on YouTube and Hangouts through Google Plus that people are like, well, that is actually pretty cool, so we should keep it, right? So I believe that, you know, like that Google Plus is great on its own, but in the general marketplace, it's YouTube and Hangouts that was its saving grace, so to speak, right? So we are at the end. We are at that saturation point of lower quality Hangouts, and we need to raise the bar and start providing good content, actually leveraging the search engine capabilities of Google Plus and the platform before us. I mean, if Google is #1 search engine and YouTube's #2 search engine, how long do you think it's going to take before Google Plus is search engine #3?
Yeah, good point. Good point.
That's you know, that talks about the integration part. We only have a few minutes left because I don't want us to run over, because I really think that what would be really great is if we can have you back, Zane, and do another one, because I think there's a lot of other things that we'd like to cover. I'd like you to consider that for the future. In the meantime, really quick, I want to bring up Tony Grant. And Tony, we're not going to be able to get to this because of the time, but I would like, Zane, maybe afterwards you go in and answer this, because I think this is a question that a lot of our audience members would be interested in. So I'm going to read it very quickly. It says, thanks for the invite. This looks to be a great hangout. Question in advance, because he wrote this beforehand. Just in case I can't be on with you all live, what would be a painless, quick, and dirty way to break into a new niche, any niche, only, I've got to go find the thing, only utilizing YouTube and Google+. For instance, what would be the first 3 things you could do in the next hour or so? And since we didn't get to address that, if you could just maybe go in, Zane, and put something in there so that we can read, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something to that?
I would, and I think I can actually answer that pretty quick, or at least mostly, and then we can, you know, maybe tack it on to something else. So with that said, I've actually been toying around with this specifically, is that using YouTube and Google Plus. First of all, starting your research with Google Plus, because it's the opposite of Facebook as far as the search engine goes. So you will find lots and lots of great information out there, people happily discussing any and every niche and topic, because there's 256 million active users on Google Plus. So there's people talking about stuff, especially, you know, very specific topics like, you know, yoga or underwater basket weaving. It's there. Search Google Plus, the search engine, and you'll be able to break it down from, you know, it starts out with that top level category of everything, and it's just everything. But then you can finite down into people and pages, into communities, into your post, how you interact. There's different ways that you can break down the information through the search engine, very similar to how you do with Google and, you know, web, images, videos, those kinds of things. And using those, and again, using your own intuition and your gut with how you want to interact with your audience, and start doing research through Google Plus. And as you find communities and as you find Google Plus pages, which also are connected to YouTube, that have YouTube channels, you know, depending on how these influencers or marketers are leveraging Google Plus, some of them much better than others, you can kind of go down that rabbit trail of how your users would be maybe experiencing your own content, right? So that's through Google Plus. But then I would also go through, and as you're tracking information through Google Plus, and you're learning things about your marketplace and types of content that you could provide to entice people to come to you and have an interaction and be able to lead down to an actual sale. As you're doing that research through YouTube, you can find that content, actually construct a YouTube channel of other people's videos as sort of your research base, and say, okay, I'm putting this content in here of other people's content, but they can use that as the foundation of the content that you want to create, and just replace your videos with those other videos on that YouTube channel. And that's how you can break into any niche through Google Plus and YouTube, and before the last of the hour.
Brilliant. So in other words, Zane, what you're saying is you don't necessarily have to be the expert in everything, but if you model and observe and listen and take heed of that niche, you can anticipate and create something very, very quickly and engage people very, very quickly, which I think is fabulous.
Well,
can
said,
I
yes.
just... thank you. I actually astounded myself, Zane, because I amazed myself at partway through that sentence. I thought, my God, I understand what the man's talking about. So I'm going to give myself a round of applause as well, which is always good. I've got a couple of comments. Sandra, I hope you don't mind me bringing these up. Kevin Burns has contributed a couple of things, and I'd be remiss not to bring one of them up. But one of them relates very specifically to a comment you made about 5-10 minutes ago. I'll read the whole thing. You won't be able to read it all here, but yesterday an expert advised to sell it before you build it. And this is what you did essentially, and then got this. Sorry, this is what you did, Zane, essentially. I think he's referring to that earlier product of yours, first YouTube product, and then got hate mail for not having the product they wanted at the ready. I didn't think the strategy. No, he's not talking about you. I think he's talking about that other expert. Right. I didn't think the strategy quoted made sense. And then I'm just trying to find the rest of his comment. I didn't think the strategy quoted made sense. Your experience and example serves as a case in point to confirm my initial hunch. On the other hand, if a customer buys something knowing in advance that the product is still under development, that might be something of a workaround. So how did you actually manage to get your arms around that dilemma? And the reason I pose that is I think there'll be other people in the audience who probably had that question.
Yeah, and revealing a little bit more to that story. First of all, the hate mail did actually just come from very extreme examples. 99% of the people were just like, I'm really excited about, like, the email response that we got back was just that, I am super excited and I want to be the first to know to buy this product. There were, in the few cases, there were a couple of people who were just offended. Now that's fine, because it also works into my overall model of just like, hey, if I say, hey, this is really cool stuff and I'm working on it and you'll be the first to know and you're still upset, then you can go ahead and you could be the first to opt out. In fact, I'll opt out for you, right? Like, that's just not the customer I want to have. Right. So, but we did consider that whole thing. We understood, like, most of the course was actually finished, and we felt good about our numbers. And it was a test that we ran because, again, we didn't understand the true potential that YouTube had. YouTube wasn't our main model; it was a part of our overall model to sell this product. But again, that's sort of how my origins as a YouTube marketer came about. But that is a very good point. Like, you don't want that negative response. You don't want it to bite. You don't want it to be bitten in the butt because of that. So you want to prepare for that, and it was a good thing that we had everything pretty much ready, or else even the people who were super excited about it would have started to be like, well, hey, it's been like 2 months. Where is it? Like, when we actually created the product, it was like 2 weeks after that we actually, like, okay, it's finished and released. So you also want to consider the timing of when you want to do that. But I hope that answers your question.
And I guess as people begin to engage with you, they'll know that you're being real about it.
Right, yes.
And I know whether you're stringing them a line. In that case, it was right at the beginning part of your career. But I guess now, if you put something out and said, look, here's some really cool content, everything won't be finished for 4 or 5 weeks, people will trust you because they know you. And so I guess it becomes easier over time, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, cool. Sandra, you've got something, I think, to...
I was just going to wrap it up. We did have a few other things, but heck, we're done. The one thing I do want us to do is, Zane, can you explain to everyone here, and then also put a link in our comment below where people can reach you, but where are you found in Google Plus right now? What is your main thing that you want us to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm going to use the power of screen share and show you something.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So this basically, like, if you liked what we were talking about, the things that I talk about in my own community. Now, mind you, this is a free community. But in this community, I have products that are offered, so that you know well ahead of time. But if you want to talk about Hangouts, Google+, YouTube, and AdWords for video, which we didn't even have time to talk about in this discussion, this is my community. We're over 521 people strong. They're really, really cool people, really, really awesome. Sandra and Sean are also a part of it. So I invite you to come over and be a part of our community so we can continue this discussion. And that was pretty much it. Just wanted to let you guys know about that.
And saying, just in case people couldn't read the top left, it's G-tron, isn't it? G-Tron, is it?
Yeah, it's because it's all the Google properties coming together, and if I could call it Googletron, I would, but Google doesn't want me to use their name, so we just shortened it to G-tron.
G-tron, cool. Fantastic, thank you.
Well, it's been a delight. I know that we've learned a lot. There's a lot of comments and questions in the stream, so if you would be sure and go in afterwards, that'd be great.
Oh, absolutely.
Melanie, I do want to say, we'll address yours for sure. Melanie Hall said a saturation of lower quality HOAs, all they need is more practice with the tools, so keep trying.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
We all started out the same way as beginners, and I know that Zane was not implying that they shouldn't do something in the beginning and get going.
Absolutely.
Because that's not who Zane is. It's just like putting a product up there. Go for it and see what happens, and let the marketplace determine.
Sandra, just before we close, I think it might be appropriate just to remind people that there will be a process with regard to the VIP circle, and just to reinforce, we weren't looking to differentiate or cause any friction or anything like that, but it's just realistically, the VIP circle can't be offered to everybody simply because we've got our respective commitments, and there's only so many people we can manage and give decent quality feedback to. But just so you're wondering, when we finish this HOA, so you're not thinking, my God, what happens now? We will communicate in due course, but it will be very, very quick, won't it, Sandra? We're not going to keep people hanging around.
Yes, for sure.
Cool. Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming on, Zane. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I look forward to doing more episodes.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go off air, but as we do,
you want me to come in? Google Plus for you and me.
Yay!
Yay!